Hey guys, and welcome to another Schematics update. This time we want to talk about Battletech, more specific about the future of Battletech, and for that we invited Bognogus. Hey dude.
Hey, how you guys doing?
I could totally not decide if I want to say guy or dude.
Either one works for me. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Could you please introduce yourself real quick for guys out there who have no idea who you are?
I'm Bognogus. I stream on Twitch, usually about 5-6 a.m. Eastern. Gotten a chance to do a lot of Battletech stuff recently, and mostly play Elite Dangerous, but super excited about Battletech.
Joining is also me, of course. I'm AdfoTV. You can find my stuff on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.
Hi, I'm Blind. I stream games on twitch.tv/BlindIRL, and sometimes we need to screw up our intros so that some people on the internet realize that we're not robots.
So let's dive into the first part of this episode. We divided this episode basically into 3 parts. We want to talk about the recent released patch, the roadmap the developers talked about, and there was an AMA on Reddit, and we want to talk about some of the points as well. So let's dive into the patch notes for patch 1.0.1.
Yeah, there were a decent amount of fixes, just general bug fixes that you'll find in normal release notes here. Range from just fixing occasional crashes when loading back into sim game to windowed mode and full screen monitor. With some of the skins as well, there were some graphical issues. One of the ones to pre-order, the Shadowhawk Umbra skin, had some graphical issues, so they got that fixed. One of my favorite ones though, especially being a streamer, the alt tabbing, which I do all of the time, has finally gotten fixed. I am very excited to finally get a chance to stream with that.
And one known issue we wanted to point out, just because I think it's hilarious, is apparently if you try and send out a Shadowhawk wearing the Valhalla paint job, combat missions will just not load. So I assume that means the game will crash.
So that's for the patch notes. Let's move on to the roadmap, and I just realized we totally mistyped road here. They talked a little bit about general bug fixes. They want to push live in late May, so not that long. They said we expect to release at least one general bug fix improved patch late in May, so at least one. Another big thing they talked about is localization and Linux support. Well, Linux support is a good thing, but localization, and that's why I have this topic, they are working on the localization in French, German, and Russian. According to the AMA, Paradox is in charge of that. The issue for me is, if I'm streaming mostly in German. Either I need to translate all the texts on the fly, which is pretty hard for me, honestly, into German, or I read them out in English. So yeah, there's no point in streaming in German then for me. Yeah, I'm happy they're addressing to localization. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good one, especially with how much flavor text is out there and how important it is to the storyline. With the next part there, the customization and player options coming out in June and July. It's looking really nice. It's going to be a pretty large update. And the thing I'm most excited about too is how quickly it's going to be coming out with this kind of stuff. It's not just like larger bug fixes. They've already been taking what they've been hearing from the community and inputting it, like with the MechWarrior customization. So they've been listening and they want to put that in. Yeah,
right away with the MechWarrior customization, with changing the appearance, the call sign, and the name of your MechWarriors, not just the mech itself. That's really nice because for me personally, I have zero attachment to any of my mech warriors whatsoever. They're just walking stat boxes. The moment you can name something, it becomes yours. It's this weird mental tick in the back of your brain, and that gives you the XCOM moments of, oh god, someone just died, and then you're horrified, and then you quickly reload the save while nobody's looking. And keep going. But no, that's something that I'm very excited to see. Granular difficulty settings. I'm very happy to see this because initially I have some problems with Battletech, and that's because it hits you with a wall of difficulty, but then once you figure the game out, that difficulty drops a little bit. Once you know all the mechanics and you have a decent lance and your money is fine. So being able to really tweak things the way that you want them to give you a proper challenge is something that I'm very much looking forward to.
I totally agree with the Mech Warrior customization, by the way, and the example you did with XCOM. Also, it's a great thing for streamers. Another thing they want to address in update number 1 is the Mech Lab store salvage quality of life improvements. Basically interface additions to reduce friction when buying and salvaging new items.
There's a lot of switching menus and the loading screens aren't super short. Like Battletech, for the praise it's gotten, it's not a perfect game by any stretch. There's a lot of rough edges, and all I'm seeing here with a lot of these updates is just fixing that and giving it a little bit more shine.
Yeah, working on quality of life improvements for me is always huge.
Speaking of quality of life.
Exactly. The next one is this tutorial skip option. Thanks God. Basically, it's allowing players who have already played the prologue missions to skip those missions when starting a new campaign, and you can kill a Decker before you get to the real part of the game, I'm guessing. So yeah, that's a nice thing because the tutorial is quite long, and to be honest, you don't learn a lot about the game in the tutorial anyway, so yeah.
They're saying that they're addressing difficulty spikes. Okay, so difficulty spikes, at least in the campaign, especially on your first run through, are a definite thing that exist. Also, weird mission balancing. There are situations where you'll find yourself in an unexpectedly hard mission, especially because the difficulty doesn't actually represent the difficulty, it just represents the mech's tonnage, and it represents the lance that you're going up against. There could potentially be reinforcement lances which are not represented in that tonnage. So there were a couple of times when I was playing through when you'd hop in and there you'd have 2 medium, like let's just say 4 medium ton mechs, like nothing super big, maybe even a light one, and then they come at you with 4 medium tons and then an assault mech and their reinforcements, and you're sitting there scratching your head going, hang on a second.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what they do to address these, and I'm curious to see what their solutions are.
With the next part, like we were talking about before, is going to be huge for us who actually stream this, the quality of life improvements. When I would basically tab out and, you know, either fix something that's on the stream or, you know, fiddle with something, it would completely drop out. And it'd be, you know, kind of odd. And then you jump back in and then the audio spikes back up. But thankfully they're getting that fixed for us as well. And I like the fact that they labeled it as live streaming quality of life improvements. It's kind of nice instead of just, you know, when you tab out, the audio goes out.
Yeah, they clearly watched a lot of streams complaining about that.
Right.
Like every single stream.
Exactly. I mean, I talked about this issue on like every stream I played Battletech, so yeah. Anyway, let's move on. And they are saying there's more Battletech coming, continuing with more free updates after update 1, which is a nice thing, to be honest. And they talked a little bit, or at least they said there will be larger paid content expansions, at least 1, maybe 2, which will maybe contain about things that Blind and Bog will tell you now.
Everybody's screaming about it. Literally, like I walked outside the other day and across the street there was some random dude screaming at me, "They need to put clan mechs in Battletech!" It's disgusting, really. Everybody's begging for what they can't have. Well, maybe you can. So basically they've teased that they might do a clan DLC. So that would include new mechs. They couldn't say much because they were under NDA. That would be really interesting story-wise because they'd have to bump the timeline up a bit, and I guess we'd have a time skip somewhere.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. One thing that showed up in the AMA as well was the Long War-esque, like an XCOM mod type thing, and that is going to be really cool because, like we were talking about before, with the granular changes that you can have control over. Same thing kind of with this as well, where in the options menu to change variables to control difficulty, they're considering it. One thing that we were talking about too that I'm really excited for, it's kind of odd to like permanently lose somebody, but I really like the idea. Like CT destruction permanently destroys a mech, you need 5 pieces of salvage to reconstruct rather than 3. 5 parts that get blown off might lose slots or max armor capacity. I just really like that. It kind of adds that whole immersion.
It adds to the pain train.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, losing is kind of fun in some cases, and that will be a lot of fun if you like that.
Can't wait for my Titan to get one tapped by a spy.
It's really going to be interesting how they tie that in with the difficulty, because if you start losing them, quicker and quicker, then they're going to have something that kind of balances that out.
So I want to ask basically the round here. They were talking about DLCs, and the clan DLC would basically force them to continue the story in the game, because as Blind said earlier, there will be a time jump necessary for that. So my question is, what else could be added as a DLC? Maybe not in that large size, so smaller DLCs. Any ideas, guys?
Someone in my chat stated, let us play as the Directorate. Let's play as the other side. This has been done in classic games of the past, franchises like Red Alert.
Yeah, I really like that. One big thing that I'd be curious is how they're going to work in all that story like you were talking about. Because, I mean, I've gone through all the books, and just being able to fit all that in, that's going to be a feat all of it in its own.
I mean, they could also just put us somewhere else in space.
True. Meanwhile,
somewhere completely different. Just take the engine and just plop different characters into it. That can't be too difficult.
Absolutely. So new content is going to be coming in the form of DLC and free LC. So it's going to be different things, like we were kind of touching on with the encounter types, and there's some of these will be designed to increase the use of light and medium mechs late game, which I really like the idea of, because at a certain point, you're kind of wanting, me personally, the more DPS and the more armor that I have, like I just feel like I'm safe, But if you need to kind of highlight the usage of medium and light mechs, and you need to do them, get them to a certain spot quicker, I just really like that idea. It really makes me want to use those a lot more.
The only issue I potentially have with that is I kind of feel like if you're using light mechs, you want to be quick, and the only mission type that comes into my mind that kind of force you to be quick is a mission type with a time limit,
There's a nuke that's going to go off in 6 turns.
Exactly, and I hated that in XCOM 2. Right. Because it forces you to rush and make stupid decisions because you need to be at the objective in a certain round limit. So no, please don't.
I mean, it could be like, say, you need to get to one end of the map and then pick up something, and then you have to get that something to the other end of the map before another unit gets to you, or maybe there's a lance of really, really tough mechs that you can't fight and you have to outrun them.
I'd like to see it where you'd have to get through different ways that you weren't expecting, either jumping through a path or something behind you.
There are ways that they could do that, or maybe nobody likes this, but stealth missions.
Oh, I love stealth missions.
Although stealth missions in like a massive robot seems kind of counterintuitive.
Exactly.
But,
Ninjas, robots, I'm for it. So adding that to kind of like the late post game as well, making harder missions, domination mode, enemy mechs with modded weapons. The modded weapons would be really neat. Touching on some other games that I've played before, having the higher tier NPCs with modded weapons just makes things way more exciting. It would be really cool to see that. Yeah, some of the other broader systematic gameplay with recurring enemies with grudges. We've seen that in a couple other games that have come out in the past couple of years, and I just find that incredible. And I hate to use the word a second time, but immersion. I really do enjoy that immersion where, contracts that aren't what they seem, and I'm not going to spoil anything. Unexpected events. I just really like that idea.
Just looking at the reoccurring enemies with grudges, 2 things come to mind. That XCOM expansion, and I think War of the Chosen is the name of it, right? And the Shadow of Mordor games. I know that those games kind of have a dark light on them now because of the second installment in the franchise being less than desirable due to loot box problems. But I'd really like a system like that because it would actually make me pay attention to the faction rep in this game.
One thing that I need in my life AoE weapons, they may or may not come, but I will literally do anything for these people if they can put AoE weapons in there. That would be a lot of fun. Now, one thing I did notice is when they mentioned about the friendly fire implementing it, it wasn't as fun in testing.
That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not fun.
It's not supposed to be.
I mean, there's something that will always annoy me, and that's when I stand behind 2 really, really heavy mechs with my fire starter with 6 flamethrowers, and it doesn't overheat both of them.
Yeah.
And should probably also overheat my mech that just meleeed one of them from the front, but that's a side point. You know, maybe don't add in friendly fire and just give us the AoE weapons. We'll mod in friendly fire. It's fine.
Exactly. We could put some lore in there where, you know, they're touching base or something.
Could you imagine just like one tapping Decker from across the map? Whoops.
I look at the guy and his leg falls off.
Poor Decker.
The size of the team that's developing this is only about 35 people that they mentioned, spread across only a few rooms and only 1 animator. That is just mind-blowing, the amount of stuff that they're putting out with that, you know?
I think the big thing that I need to stress here is, you know, there's always going to be people picking games apart, but be nice to people that make games because there's not a lot of them. And
Yes.
especially when you have a case like there's only 1 animator.
Yeah.
Man, I can't say anything but good things about the animations in this game now that I know there's only 1 animator, because I actually feel kind of bad. Like that's so much work for one person, and they did an incredible job with the team that they had.
So one thing that's going to be really, really neat to see, and I'm sure a lot of people, especially with some of the news articles that we've been seeing with modding and some of the larger titles that are out there, to have it where the dev team is saying, don't worry, you're not going to have any friction with modding. You're free to do what you want. There's no official, no plans for official modding support, but some people might be approached. Some individual engineers might be approached for some help. That is just really neat, and like basically a really big high five to the community, saying, "Go on, have as much fun as you want." And I think they're looking forward to seeing what's going to be coming out from the community on the modding side.
Like I just want to remove heat limits and just see how many lasers I can put on a mech.
Exactly.
You know, just for sandbox,
God's
this isn't serious play or anything. Yeah, exactly.
One thing that from my wife who was watching us play was saying, my God, it takes forever to get through stuff. And me, I'm, you know, soaking in the story and, you know, making decisions and talking them out. But for players who would like to have it accelerated, I like the fact that they're going to have that option to accelerate the combat options.
Yeah, I agree.
I know there's already a mod bouncing around that removes a bunch of like all the little cutscenes and like speeds up the animations, and never.
Right?
Heresy.
Right? I just slap the hand away. Don't click. You need to watch this.
Okay, guys, let's wrap this up. First of all, thanks a lot, Bog, for joining and talking about Battletech with us.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you guys so much.
Pleasure to have you on, as always. And for our listeners and viewers, thanks a lot for listening and viewing. If you enjoyed this video, you may want to go over to our coffee page. The link is in the description. And consider buying us a coffee so the editor can stay up all night editing the video and videos to come in the future. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot again for watching this video. See you next time. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.